We often talk about life wisdom on our channel. That's not just my own speculation or personal anecdotes. These conclusions are supported by solid scientific evidence and represent the current scientific understanding. You might say science keeps updating, studies change all the time. Maybe some findings will later be falsified. That does happen. Some psychology studies failed to replicate and were probably wrong. But I must say, most of what we discuss stands up. We usually present scientific consensus, and consensus is relatively stable. New discoveries seldom overthrow earlier conclusions outright. They more often build on and confirm them. Recently I ran into 4 new findings that happen to confirm things we've said before. And they also bring fresh progress that goes beyond what we previously knew. They offer new insights, and today we'll go through them. I think one of the best parts of reading and learning is this. Knowledge isn't fixed. What you once knew is like a tree. New knowledge is like new branches and leaves growing on it. Your knowledge system is dynamic, organic, and alive. These 4 new findings are not only interesting. They're highly useful. The first new finding is about life purpose. We've often stressed that you need a sense of mission. A long-term purpose for living. Why are you here? Maybe to explore the world, or to build something, or to pursue justice, or simply to care for the people you love. Whatever it is, it must give you reason to keep going. With purpose, you not only feel better. Your body is healthier and you actually live longer. We previously mentioned 2 studies while discussing Sahil Bloom's The 5 Types of Wealth. You may remember. One geriatric study found that people with a clear life purpose live on average 7 years longer than those without. Another study of over 7,000 Americans showed that after age 50, people with strong purpose had significantly lower mortality risk than those with weak purpose. That's great news. But you might ask, purpose is good, sure. But what if someone has no big purpose, but stays cheerful all the time, sings and parties and finds small pleasures? Wouldn't that person live longer than someone obsessed with a grand mission? A February 2024 Finnish study gives a clear answer, no. This longitudinal study followed nearly 6,000 middle-aged Americans for 23 years, measuring both life satisfaction and sense of purpose. Both measures independently correlated with longevity. Satisfied people lived longer, purposeful people lived longer. But there was a key variable, physical health. If someone's health is poor, life satisfaction is unlikely to be high. Once you control for health, the effect of life satisfaction on longevity weakens. In other words, satisfaction tends to improve lifespan via better health. By contrast, even after controlling for health, sense of purpose still had a strong, independent effect on longevity. That means someone can have poor health and a difficult life, yet if they have a powerful reason to live, a strong purpose, they still tend to live much longer. Simply increasing life satisfaction doesn't produce the same effect. So the common saying, the most important thing is to be happy, is incomplete. Happiness can be a byproduct, but a life spent chasing only short-term enjoyment risks emptiness. What matters more than feeling happy is meaning, having purpose and mission. The second new finding concerns cognitive ability and age. The conventional view says intelligence peaks at a certain age, then declines. Like athletic ability, your brain ages and there's a peak around age 30. But intelligence isn't one thing. We've explained the difference before. Fluid intelligence, speed, problem-solving, new reasoning, and crystallized intelligence, knowledge, experience. The old view was that fluid intelligence peaks in youth, while crystallized may keep rising into later life. When we discussed Henry Oliver's Second Act, we said both fluid and crystallized intelligence tend to peak around 30, and crystallized intelligence might climb to 60 before slowly falling. A new German study, published March 5, 2025, overturns that whole picture. The researchers point out that previous claims of a 30-year peak came from cross-sectional data, which mixes cohorts and thereby confounds age with generational differences. For example, rising education levels mean younger cohorts are often more skilled than older ones. To truly see how cognition changes with age, you need longitudinal tracking. This new study followed over 3,000 German adults aged 16 to 65, testing verbal and math abilities every 3.5 years. The result? Both verbal and numerical abilities actually peak in the early 40s, not at 30. Good news. If you're in your 30s, learning math or technical skills still pays off. But there's even better news. Crucially, cognitive decline isn't primarily physiological aging. It's disuse. Those who regularly use language and math at work continue improving after 40 and peak at retirement age around 65. As long as you use the skills, they don't decline. Those who don't use these abilities start to slip in their 30s. In short, use it or lose it. Previous beliefs about a fixed early cognitive peak are wrong. The average decline reflected many people who stopped challenging their minds after early career years. Looking at occupation, education, and gender. White-collar workers and highly educated people do not decline after 40. Their cognition continues rising. Blue-collar workers and less educated people, whose jobs don't require complex cognitive tasks, tend to show decline beginning in their mid-30s. The differences are striking. There is a less pleasant finding: women's cognitive skills, especially math ability, decline faster than men's in the sample. That may be physiological, but it could largely reflect differences in work patterns and labor market roles. In Germany, many women reduce or leave paid work after childbirth, lowering cognitive demands. Overall, the message is clear. The brain ages far more slowly than we thought. Maybe it doesn't have to age at all, if you keep using it. The third new finding is about choosing interpretation frames. We've often taught, it's not an event itself, but how you interpret it that shapes your reaction. Your framing determines your subjective feeling, and that feeling affects your physical and mental health. In short, choose positive interpretations. We discussed Scott Adams' Reframe Your Brain. Deliberately picking a constructive frame changes your experience. A February 2025 study from the University of Michigan confirms this idea, in the context of solitude. How you interpret being alone decides how lonely you feel. Consider someone who lives alone with little contact. How should we evaluate that? Media often frames solitude negatively. And lots of research shows loneliness harms elders' mental and physical health. Humans are social animals. Prolonged lack of connection is harmful. But flip the frame. Solitude can be restful, a space for growth, time for hobbies and creativity, freedom from interruption. Michigan's study found, the more exposure you have to messages that solitude is beneficial, the more you come to believe solitude's benefits. The more exposure to messages that solitude is harmful, the more you view it as harmful. That's framing. More importantly, if you view solitude negatively, longer solitude increases your loneliness and depression. But if you view solitude positively, even extended alone time doesn't produce the same loneliness. It can bring contentment, stability, and higher well-being. The conclusion: what really hurts you isn't objective solitude. It's the feeling of loneliness. The danger is not being alone, but believing you are alone. Everything depends on how you see it. The fourth new finding is about reducing anxiety. We've said the real headache in life often comes not from major crises, but from constant small stressors. The chronic daily hassles. Books like The Telomere Effect, Look Again, and Good Energy converge on one point. One of the worst responses to stress is rumination. Replaying and obsessing over problems. The more you ruminate, the more cortisol floods your body, keeping you chronically tense and harming health. Small hassles are inevitable. So how should we respond? A 2023 Dutch study offers a practical tactic. Delay dealing with the problem. Put it aside for a while. If an appliance breaks or you have a workplace spat, don't leap in immediately. Right after the event, you're likely to overestimate its severity. Wait, cool down, and later you'll see things more clearly. The researchers ran 7 experiments and found that postponing action on anxiety-provoking small issues often leads to better outcomes once emotions have stabilized. Prioritize big tasks. Shelve small ones for later. Another 2023 Cambridge study proposes a different strategy. Simply ignore some worries. Not all anxieties are worth attention. Many concerns can be left unaddressed. They ran a 3-day online training for 120 adults across 16 countries, teaching people to let go of certain fears. Participants' anxiety, negative affect, and depressive symptoms dropped significantly, with effects lasting over 3 months. So not worrying is a skill. Sometimes you say, "I'm not handling this." Let it be. Our brain is designed for big thinking, not for fretting about every trivial annoyance. Be kind to your mind. Put these 4 findings together and a vision of an ideal life emerges. Have a grand mission. A lifelong task that gives you purpose, something you'll pursue without regret. It's precisely the endless striving that makes life worth living. Actively use high cognitive skills. Don't settle for repetitive, low-challenge tasks after graduation or with age. The brain adapts to use. Keep climbing to higher intellectual peaks. For daily matters, learn to let go. Reframe events positively. Choose a generous interpretation. And for trivial hassles, postpone them, set them aside, or ignore them. This is the mindset of those who accomplish great things. They don't get stuck on small distractions. Science repeatedly shows these truths. Carry a heavy mission, pursue growth, think broadly, and ignore petty troubles. You'll not only feel better, you'll likely live longer. That's it for today's content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.